Here we go, chapter 9, excuse me, book presentation number 8, cohesion, conceptual models of cohesion. We got task and social cohesion tied in here with some leadership and team factors as well. So the definition, the total field of forces which act on members to remain in a group. So the authors of this definition, if they believe that there were two distinct types of forces that act on members to basically get people to stay in groups. One of which is the attractiveness of the group, which refers to the individual's desire for interpersonal reactions. And then the means control, it refers to the benefits that a member can derive from being associated with the group. So the first one, you like the people you play ball with. The other one, means control, sure, you might like the people you play ball with, but you're more interested in being on a team that can win a championship. And the differentiators with this, when you start to look at this, they define this as kind of a dynamic process. This is the same study. They define it as like a dynamic process reflected in a tendency for a group to stick together and remain united in pursuit of objectives and or satisfaction of member affective needs. So it's a matter of you're focusing on the group or you're focusing on the task at hand. So it's a matter of being involved with a group because of this or being involved with a group because of this. And it's a dynamic process. It sees groups stick together throughout, thick and thin, right? And you have so many different ups and downs when you play a team sport. And it's a dynamic process that's in response to some of the external factors that influence the group while it's on its path towards achieving its goals. The book lists two main components here, and one of which is task cohesion and social cohesion. And with task cohesion, it reflects the degree to which members of a group work together to achieve common goals. But on the other hand, social cohesion is or reflects the degree to which members of a team like each other. And what I like about this is they further elaborate and describe the differences here when you start talking about attractiveness of the group and the means control. But what I don't like about this, which can kind of be confusing from an educational standpoint, is they put attractiveness first, means control second. Attractiveness of the group is how you get along and enjoy being with the other people. Means control is what your expected outcomes might be with that group. And then when you get into here and you look at task cohesion, well, task cohesion, it's how well people work together to achieve a common goal. And then the social cohesion is how well you enjoy working with each other. So it's almost like they probably should have put social cohesion first and then task cohesion second, just to kind of stay or have some continuity between that first bullet point and this bullet point. So don't flip-flop those in your head. Just kind of realize they kind of run together. And, task cohesion, you're working together to achieve that common goal, well as social cohesion, it's how well you like each other. So I think they do a really good job in the book here on page 202, I believe it is, kind of encapsulating this in the key point. Task cohesion refers to the degree to which group members work together to achieve common goals and objectives, whereas social cohesion reflects the interpersonal attraction among group members. So a pretty good job there. And so with this model of cohesion, they have 5 major factors affecting development of cohesion: environmental, personal, leadership, team factors, and outcomes. And I'm just, as I'm reading those out, you could probably sit there and think these through in terms of like what would be environmental, what would be personal, what would be leadership, team factors, and then also outcomes. And they try to do they try to encapsulate this here in this little flow chart, and they do an okay job. This is one of those where I'm kind of meh on the results. This is on 203. I probably would have drawn this differently in terms of like having a center and then having these different branches outside of this, but I'll just use the one they have in the book so you can stay on task with the book. They talk about the environmental factors, which is kind of what permeates everything. But what I don't like about this is they kind of narrow it into contractual responsibility and organizational orientation. And then personal factors, they have individual orientation, satisfaction, individual differences. And then leadership factors, the behavior style of the leader, and then the relationships and the personalities between coach and athlete. And then they go into team factors, cohesion, etc. So I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great in terms of really encapsulating or talking about or showing what we're talking about. With environmental factors, it's kind of the external factors. And this is a little bit awkward as well, because you have external factors, and they're talking about the external factors outside of the team environment, and the influence by the family is certainly outside of the team environment, but it can be very specific, if you will, to one of the athletes on the team. But they list things like that the fact that the environmental factors are the most generalized and most remote things that refer to normative forces that hold a group together. And they are things like players are under contract or scholarship. Family members have expectations. There's geographical issues in terms of going to play at another school. Regulations specify the minimum playing time for youth sport, or paying an extra fee for a class. I thought those are okay, but in terms of like environmental, but I think it can be a little bit confusing when you look at like some of those being truly like external environmental factors, and like one of them could be a little bit more processed internally by the athlete, and that'd be the family. So individual characteristics of group members, they talk about like the personal factors or personnel factors. It's like the individual characteristics of group members. And so, as a person, you have a team that's made up of different individuals. And what they talk about in here is with the different personal factors that you have these three main areas of demographic attributes, cognitions and motives, and then behavior. And what they suggested in the book was that some of the more and most important factors for cohesion is individual satisfaction, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a second here. But what they're looking at is how do the different member personalities attribute to group success. And they have a 5-factor model, which we'll get into here in a second. And it's these different personalities that all come together. And I said it before, where even when you have a team, the team itself will start to develop and coalesce into its own personality and have its organically come together to create its own personality. So you can't discount the fact that individuals will have personalities, but the team itself will have personalities. They describe these 5 main areas in here as extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, openness to experience, and conscientiousness. And when they go into these, it's a matter of having an understanding of emotional intelligence, and it's a matter of operating from a place where you have extroversion in terms of how you interact with other people. Are you able to proactively go out and meet with people, connect with people? Agreeableness in terms of your interactions. Hey, I need you to try this. Can you try this? From coach to athlete? Yes, I can. Neuroticism is a little bit of a negative connotation where you're a little bit more self-centered, and depending where you are on the scale, more self-centered or less self-centered matters. Openness to experience, which kind of ties back into agreeableness, and then conscientiousness as well, where you're conscientious and aware of your situations and surroundings. But you have to have this in terms of your own emotions and understanding our emotions. And I try to tie these together for purpose, because you have those 5 things I just mentioned, and you have a sliding scale in terms of your conscientiousness, how aware you are of other people. Let's go back to this. Neuroticism, how self-centered you are or not. Openness to experience, how agreeable you are. And extroversion, ability to talk to others and proactively reach out to other people. Then you tie this into this concept of emotional intelligence and your ability to interact with other people on your team, and be able to not only interact but intervene with a teammate who maybe is in the middle of having a little bit of a meltdown during a game, or is having a bit of an interpersonal thing going on with an opponent. You have to be able to be aware enough, extroverted enough, conscientious enough, all these things, and humble enough to be able to jump in with your teammate and say, hey, I think I see this going on, buddy. Just chill out. It's okay. Let's not get 15 yards on this. Let's not take a penalty kick, whatever it may be. And so it's a matter of really having an understanding of ourselves, and then being able to regulate our emotions as needed. With leadership, we often talk about leadership being between coach and athletes, but there's also leadership amongst athletes, as we talked about before. But it comes down to an articulation, and as a coach, creating the concept of what leadership is. And within that context, being able to articulate that to your captains. Here's what I need you to do as a leader, and then being able to implement that. And even when you have people who are like your non-traditional, right, type of leaders on the field, there's a little bit of an implied understanding in terms of what they will or will not do. But it's really a matter of creating a clear and consistent message and being able to press that down onto the captains of a team, the team itself, and really have an understanding of what each role is and have an understanding of not only the definition of the role, but the responsibilities within a role itself. And again, this gets back to one of our earlier conversations, and it's a matter of just being able to articulate that as a coach. And this, when you talk about team factors, this totally gets back to having the right people on the bus. You got to have the bus pointed in the right direction. You have to have the right driver of the bus. And programs that are consistently successful drive their bus in the same way, in the same direction, and they attract players who fit the mold that they need. They attract players that align with the coaching philosophy. And the coaches that are there, not just the head coach, but the assistant coaches, etc., they also fit a certain mold that aligns with the vision of that organization. And now you start talking about how a director of athletics views their program or interacts with their coaches to allow that happen, as opposed to just a coach allowing that to happen within the context of their sport. So there's different degrees to this for sure. Specific to outcomes, they occur at both the team level and also the individual level, and even within the group level. I talk a lot in terms of being kind of like granular, right? And how you interact with your coaches, or coaches and athletes interact at the mesh point. And that'll be a position coach conversation versus a head coach conversation. You're looking for a greater stability. You want greater absolute effectiveness, but also relative effectiveness. We talked a little bit about that crevasse or difference between what the expected and what the actual capabilities are of a team. On an individual level, you're going to get greater performance. You're going to get greater or increased satisfaction from your athletes. And you're going to have greater absolute as well as relative effectiveness within their actual position. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off and go to the next presentation.